What's good, everybody? It's your boy Big Nate. Welcome back to Big Nate's live stream, home of the best live streams. And I think I've got everything set up here. We will find out in due time. But today we're gonna do a Q&A because we're on kind of on an off week. I just hosted my sister and my cousin here this week, so I didn't really have a chance to stream. Now she's got a marathon, so I'm going to California. It's gonna be a whole thing. Anyway, I swear we're eventually going to be doing some literary analysis here on YouTube. We've been doing that on Twitch, but we're going to get to that. But I figured in the meantime, it would be fun to do a Q&A live stream. So I posted to my Instagram. I did a little community post, and of course, feel free to drop anything in the chat. But we're going to do a little Q&A, and we got some good questions. So I am excited for that. Real quick, I'm gonna close this. But then, without further ado, we can get right into it. I mean, normally I like to start these with what is everybody reading. So if anyone is happens to be on right now, go ahead and drop that in the chat. Oh hell, I'll do it. Why not? The reason why not actually is because it's kind of been the same thing every time we do this. I'm still reading The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, very long book, close to 1,200 pages. I'm also still reading Moby Dick, which I have to say, it's amazing to me that people like this book. I mean, I love like I've mentioned, the story part is good, but oh my, this has to be one of the hardest books that I have ever read, and not in any kind of literarily challenging sense, not because the vocabulary, not because I'm struggling with the themes. It is just so profoundly boring. Yo, what's good, Theo? What's up? Good to see you in chat. But yeah, so Moby Dick, it is just a straight slog for me, and that might be related. One of the questions someone asked was how I deal with reading slump, so we'll get to that. But so still reading Moby Dick. It might be a while. Honestly, I would have dropped this long ago, but there has to be something here. I refuse to believe this many people are like, oh, Moby Dick is so good. I love Moby Dick. Someone in the Discord was just talking about how much they love Moby Dick. For the life of me, I cannot understand it. So far, it is just, frankly, kind of terrible. Like right now, the Moby Dick sitting for me at a maybe 2.5 stars, but like 2 stars if I'm feeling good. 2.5. It's honestly, I hate to be a hater, I really do. And I love the story part. Wish he would stick with that. But this has to be one of like the worst books I've read in a long time. Which feels a little sanctimonious. I don't know if that's the right word, actually. Sacrilegious of me to say, because Moby Dick is so apparently beloved. But for the life of me, I can't see why, except for the actual story part. But you could cut half of this book, in my opinion, and it would just come out way better for it. So, just started Libra by Don DeLillo. I've heard excellent things about Libra in the Discord. I have not read Don DeLillo yet, but somebody said that is the book to start with if you are going to start reading Don DeLillo. So I think you're on the right track, Aldo. It is big book season, Theo. Yes, it is indeed. And yeah, after this, honestly, need a little bit of a palate cleanser, I think, phase where I'm just going to hit a bunch of shorter books. Like I know on my list, Bochan by Natsumi Soseki. Should have been hit that, but like I mentioned in the bookshelf tour, one thing led to another, and I kind of got out of the Soseki zone. But that's another short book I would love to read. Invisible Cities by what's bro's name? Italo Calvino, whatever bro's name is. So I do plan to knock out a few little short books just to balance things out here. Nate, this is my first live of yours to catch. What's good? Sean Mike, what's good? Yeah, we were doing this on Twitch, but I feel like YouTube, just cause, I don't know, I wanted to start streaming and Twitch just seems like the main place to do it, but I feel like YouTube might be the move, so we're figuring that out. But yes, on Twitch we've been doing hella literary analysis. I've posted the streams on another channel. We can work out those details later, but yes, I will either next week or somewhere around there. The next story we're going to be discussing is The Refusal by Franz Kafka. So I do like the live streams where we just hang and chill, but we gotta get back to our roots. We gotta get back to some literary analysis. So stay tuned for that. If you are interested, get to the Discord, because that's where we kind of like talk details and the PDF and everything. And also, you don't need to actually read the story. That's another thing. It's kind of like Big Nate Short Story Club when that was a thing. You don't need to have any we're gonna read through the text, like read passages, have discussion. So you don't need to have any prior reading. Just while we're talking details here. Started reading Thus Spoke Zarathustra, but I've got some medieval stuff on the go for university. Hey, that sounds great. I have not read Thus Spoke Zarathustra. The only thing I've read by Nietzsche was the 2 books, which is kind of like one book. I don't know, but Twilight of the Idols and the Antichrist. But oh my God, what a blast Nietzsche was, at least to me. Do I agree with everything he says? Of course not. I don't even think he agrees with everything. Bro be contradicting himself sometimes, arguably. But undeniably, a very fun writer Nietzsche is. So that's good to hear you're reading Thus Spoke Zarathustra. So anyway, we can kind of keep going to the chat with what people are reading if they're interested. But I think we can just go ahead and dive into some of these Q&As. So I've kind of like looked through some of them. I honestly haven't like formulated any real answers to this, so it's going to be kind of happening in real time. But let's start, I think, in the order that they were received. So I'm going to do the YouTube, the one from the community post first. Bluebeard. Shout out Miguel. Shout out Bluebeard. I've read that book 3 times. I think I just said that on my, I said it in one of my videos. And I think I said this too, but I don't even know why. It's been a while since I've read it, so I'd be interested how it holds up for me. But I just found that book very compulsively readable. Vonnegut is just such a fun writer. So yeah, Bluebeard. That's funny to see there. But yeah, are you liking it so far, Miguel? And while you let us know, let's get started with the first question, and we can kind of circle back. Okay, if you had to pick one book to save from like so this is Miladini 1. If you had to pick one book to save from like a total book apocalypse where every other book disappears, which one would I pick? That is a doozy. I feel like it's a little basic because I kind of pick it, but I would hate to lose the Odyssey. Okay, so the Odyssey would be good for that question, just almost for like historical purposes. You know, if there's like a book apocalypse and everything just disappeared and I could only keep one, along with it being just like one of my favorite books. Although, disclaimer, I only read it once. I feel like for a book to really be your favorite, you got to hit it at least, 2-3 times. But my initial instinct on that question is either the Odyssey or Anna Karenina. I can't see myself going without those books. If everything on this bookshelf disappeared, I feel like the criteria there would be one of those books that just seem to like encapsulate everything, like the whole one of those sprawling, but another example, East of Eden, like that. There's just so much about like life just in general, but like the characters and the philosophy, talking about East of Eden here specifically, and the multi-generational stuff, the history, the free wills, that like there's lots of great. Another one that comes to mind, Brothers Karamazov, just because there's so much contained in it, even if they aren't necessarily stylistically some of my favorite, although all of those I think are great that I just listed. I just love the breadth. And then not to mention something like The Republic by Plato. Like I would hate to see, that's another like keystone text. But okay, I have to answer your question, Miladini. So if I had to pick one, that is honestly tough. I'm gonna say it's between the Odyssey and Anna Karenina, and just this is subject to change, but just you get me right now. You get the current Big Nate. If I had gun to my head, I said don't do it. All right. I'll pick Anna Karenina. So good question, Miladini, and of course I'm be curious if anyone wants to answer these as well. With that feel free to answer these questions as well. Miguel coming back to Bluebeard. This is a good stopping point because we'll get to the next question. But still like 50 pages in, but so far it's fun. I think his narrative style in this one is very meta and almost breaking some type of fourth wall like he did in Breakfast of Champions. What's good, Nicholas? Hello. I have not read Breakfast of Champions, Miguel. But yeah, it's good. Again, it's fun. It's not like Bluebeard isn't like a revolutionary book, but it was great. It was great. I had fun with it. Exactly. So, all right, but that was a good question. All right, so if I had to save a book from a book apocalypse, I guess I would do Anna Karenina, although I hate to see all the homies gone. All right, so who Tullis? How do you find interest in so many books? Do you ever start a book and then not finish it? Oh, a little 2-for-1, I see, Tullis. What's good, Justin? Shout out to you. How do I find interest in so many books? I don't know. I mean, it is a good. I think that's kind of been a theme here, and honestly, it's kind of like I won't say it's a recent thing, but I'd say that's. Oh, hold up. I think. Whoa. Am I? Can you guys see me? Hold on. Like, warning. The stream. It said, is my stream good still or nah? Oh, I can open it like that. I think I'm good. Oh, okay. All right. I don't know why that happened. It's got a big warning thing, but we ain't tripping. Okay, but the thing is with how I read so much. I don't know. Honestly, this has been a bit of a interesting trajectory of my own life, if I may say so myself, where it's just like I've always been interested in, I think part of so this is, I think, the stem of it is like I've always been interested in these sciences, but my first like degree, like just like normal ass like life trajectory, finish high school, it's like, all right, let's do English literature. And that was actually like kind of a commitment device to make sure I kept writing, because I was like, I know if I did something you want to know something funny, something laughable, is I was gonna major in business. When like because I say adults because back then it was a thing, but like you're in high school and the adults like, oh, what you gonna major in? I was like, probably business. I remember my girlfriend at the time, bro, was grilling me, her dad, stepdad, whatever, grilling me. So what are you gonna major in? I said, yeah, business. What do you plan on doing with that? Man, get off my shit, bro. But I said English because I know if I didn't, I would just, how that happens. Like I loved reading. And I loved writing, and it was something I wanted to do. But like if I was doing full time, like something like business or like a practical degree, I kind of had a feeling, knowing myself, that would fall to the wayside. So that was a bit of a commitment device, and it's like, all right, we figured it out from there. So anyway, but I've always had a little bit of a love for the sciences for sure. So like when I finished English, then I started doing psychology. Then I double majored in psychology and neuroscience. And circling back to the question of like, how do I read so widely, is I feel like that's kind of what did it. Is like, now I'm in a whole different field. It's not just like classic literature. It's more like nonfiction. It's more science and stuff. But, for those classes and just in general, you had to do readings. And that's where I discovered some really like fantastic books. Somewhere back here, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, which is like, it's a book about a clinical neuropsychologist who anyway, I won't get into it, but it was just like this fascinating story. And that was, obviously like that was a book, and books encompass like so much stuff. And then you start getting it. I've always been into like philosophy and stuff too, and recently I've been on like a mysticism bent. So, and then at some point I feel like I started realizing, or like this is how I kind of think about it, is it's like, the quantity is a quality in and of itself. I don't know if that quite applies, but what I'm saying is like, at some point I realized, almost at like a meta level, is like I really like to branch out into different fields, and like things that, I feel like I'd be doing this all the time. Things I learn in philosophy or psychology or in mysticism, they always tie back into one another. Like, when you read widely, you find that there's actually all these different connections with like what you could just consider like, just like classical literature or something like that. So I think that kind of answered one of your questions, who tell us, how do you find interest in so many books? The other one was, do you ever start a book and then not finish it? Yes, I would say I do that all the time. I actually think I'm pretty good with picking books I know I'm going to like. Like at this point, I'm pretty familiar with, I'll be watching like some booktube. I have some trusted sources, writer, there's certain books that just pop up where it's like, I can make a pretty good bet I'm going to like this one. But for instance, I DNF books all the time. I'm a big advocate of DNFing. I know some people have a very different philosophy on that, where it's like they start a book and they just have to finish it, especially if they get like to that halfway point or something. And I feel that like, it's like, what if it gets good, or like, I don't know, I got this far, I just want to see it. I don't know. There's some kind of like completionist philosophy there for some people, but I will just, honestly, I cannot... It's almost, if anything, like a fault, maybe, my degree to like, if it starts getting bad for like 50 pages, I'm done with that shit. Or even like the last book I DNF'd was Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. And it wasn't even like bad per se, but it just was not hitting. And it was like, it'd been like 50 pages, and I'm like, why am I doing that? Like, if you watch my bookshelf tour that I just did, we got hella books that like I'm overdue on. So I'm not about to waste my time with some bummy ass book. The one exception right now, like I was just talking about a second ago, is Moby Dick, because I would have, like I said, I mean, I don't know. I guess there's new people here because I was just talking about this a second ago. But I would have been DNF'd Moby Dick because it's like, do I ever start a book and then not finish it? Yeah, I would have been dropped this, but I'm having faith. I'm having faith because everyone, I'm choosing to believe there's a there. This is a leap of faith. This is a leap of faith. But oh my God, fucking horrible low-key right now. And if I didn't, like, to be honest, if there wasn't all this hype around it, and if all these trusted sources weren't like, it gets amazing, and Cormac McCarthy, huge inspiration for Blood Meridian, if none of that was there, yeah, I absolutely would have, DNF'd this, not finished it. And especially if you're like a new reader, if a book isn't like gripping you, toss that to the side. That's honestly, when people say they don't read, it's because they have not found the right book. And I think that's fat. And like a lot of people too, I feel like they'll try and jump into like the greatest classics, but those are the ones that kind of got to get worked up to, in my opinion. But the point being that if you're not enjoying a book, I mean, obviously give it a little bit of a chance. Like sometimes it needs to warm up. Every book's gonna have a little bit of a lull. I mean, not every book, but there will be lulls, of course. Don't do it because your attention span is low and it's like you're just not willing to put in the effort, but like you recognize that it's good and rewarding, but it's just too like hard. If you can do that, I say stick it out as long as there's merit there. But if the book is just like a total wash, dump that shit. Okay, I'm gonna catch up on chat. You dabble in Yukio Mishima? No, Nicholas, I have not. But he's on my list. What's the Blood and Steel, Blood and Iron, something like that? Let me know what I should read by him. But what is he? Is he like a classic Japanese author, or is he more like modern? Like I don't know what his time period is per se. And what is he even like? What does he write about? Like what is Yukio Mishima's thing? Like what's his themes? You know what I'm saying? I'd probably have to go for Shakespeare, maybe Macbeth, but any of the tragedies. Yeah, I mean, Shakespeare is goated. Also, because I think that was in reference to if we had to keep a book, which one would we do? Shakespeare's just too small. I mean, you do whatever, of course, but it's like I feel like I want a big book too. Hot take: Breakfast of Champions, one of my least favorite. Beef in the chat. Actually, Miguel, I think you were the one that said that. No, I haven't read it. So that's good to know. I'll keep that in mind. Okay, everyone can see me. Yep. Catching up on chat. Emily Wilson's translation of the Odyssey. I've heard good things about that. I think she's the new kid on the block, you could say. I've been doing Fagels, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And plus, like the covers kind of like match. Let's see if boom, boom. They got the little, they be matching. But I would love, honestly, if I when I reread the Odyssey, I'm gonna do. I think I might try that Emily Wilson. Let me know in the let me know in the comments when you guys read that. I hated reading until I was like 14. Yeah, I was not big. Honestly, I was not a big reader either. I'll save some of that actually, because I think that's one of the questions. And you got to get the right books. I'm telling you, like some of my high school books that I had to read were so it astounds me that they would give this to high schoolers, because they're, even to this day, they would be boring. And then some of them, like A Tale of Two Cities, like I feel like I could barely handle that now. That was a book I actually did read because, funny enough, all through high school, cheated, bro. Like Spark Notes in that sense. Not all the time, but like Pride and Prejudice, Spark Noted the whole thing. Actually, not even. There was a girl right in front of me. She'd be doing the readings. I'm in the back corner, can straight see the answers. So I didn't read any of Pride and Prejudice, and that was like the whole semester. I'm not proud of this, by the way. But like Pride and Prejudice to a high schooler, I mean, yes, it's great, and like I loved Pride and Prejudice, but it's just like, I feel like we can come up. I mean, we've talked about this on stream before, like what kind of books would be best for high school. But what I was leading into was that I feel like that kind of saps the fun out of reading for a lot of people when you choose like books that aren't necessarily at high school level. But I mean, some people argue it's like you got to hit them with the classics. But anyway, I think that might contribute to why people don't like reading sometimes. I bought my mom that book for her birthday, but never read it myself. I forget which book I talked about, but shout out to you for buying your mom a book. What's good? Dage Martinez, what's up? What's poppin', Big Nate? What's up, Super Plorp? Oh, I see y'all on the comments too. Don't think I don't be seeing y'all. What's up? Hey, Big Nate, greetings from Colombia. Oh, Mr. Worldwide. Call me Mr. Worldwide. Any thoughts on pursuing a PhD or specialization in a given area? I ask because of your interesting multidisciplinary background. Well, thank you, Matt11UZ. Funny story, I was in a PhD program for cognitive neuroscience and I dropped out. That's the only reason I got this master's hanging up here is because like on the way to your PhD, you get like an implicit master's. Like you have to get a PhD, you must get a master's along the way. But yeah, it was I honestly PhD has been a big life goal of mine, but once I got into it, it was not what I expected. It ends up just being like I'm not about to go on a whole tangent here because we got other questions to talk about, but because it's like, oh, cool. In fact, I'm going to make a whole video on this at some point. But the gist of it is this. It's like, okay, dope. I get to, you get paid to go to a PhD program. Like, they pay for all your school and you get a little stipend. And it's like, oh, I get to do research. You get paid to do research. And like by the end of it, I'll have a PhD. What could be? It's all smiles and sunshine and rainbows. But what happens is, for most people, you go in, and you don't actually get paid to do research. You get paid to teach. Like I taught classes, which I was low key, like woefully. They don't give you they just throw you in the deep end. I'm like, dude, I was an undergraduate like a year or two, and you're telling me I'm turning around teaching these mofos. And anyway, I tried my best at it. You know, I like teaching. Absolutely, I like teaching. Except it's a bit of a double-edged sword because for one, let's take it step by step. So for one, you get paid to teach, right? But at the same time, the culture is like basically you're only in a lab to like publish research. So it's like you're expected to do research, but you don't actually technically get paid for that. Anyway, long story short, it ends up just being fat hours. Like there was no work-life balance, at least for me. You make peanuts. You know what my salary was? It was like 20K. It was like 21K. That's like with working summers and shit too. Like that's bad, bro. That's why I was stuck in the basement life for so long. And then it's also just like I had all these ideas for research. Oh, let's try this. Oh, let's try this. And it's like, well, actually, that's not in our like. It has to be your research question has to be under the umbrella of like whoever your advisor is, their grant, and it's just very stifling. It has to be this very narrow questions. Anyway, I'm kind of going off, but suffice it to say, PhD academia life, not for Big Nate. Not for Big Nate. Okay, Dage Martin. I hope I'm saying that right. Dage Martinez, what do you do for work and do you plan on using your degrees in the future? What do I do for work? I am a biostatistician and data analyst at Johns Hopkins University. That's my little pitch. I obviously work remote because I'm in Colorado. Let's see. But yeah, so I basically do research in what's called environmental epidemiology. Big words for basically just meaning like how does environmental, like things like pollution and PFAS, like these forever chemicals and like plastics and like, you know, all this basically shitty environmental stuff that's unhealthy for you. How does that affect your biology? And we work with basically, I don't know, how do I really put this? I mean, a bunch of different things, but for instance, stuff like the microbiome. So it's like, how does pollution affect like the composition of your gut microbiome? How is PFAS associated with, you want to know something fucked up actually? The big project I've been working on right now is, it's like related to PFAS and breast milk. So like the whole premise of for one, PFAS, which are like forever chemical, they basically don't degrade. I feel like people know this by now, but I sometimes it's hard for me to tell if people do or don't know. But PFAS, poly and perfluoroalkyl substances, they don't break down. That's why they're called forever chemicals, and they just accumulate in your body and fuck shit up. to be honest, like the literature, but there's essentially no biological function that PFAS does not fuck with. But some of the research I'm doing right now is PFAS is found in breast milk. Like already, that's already crazy. Like PFAS is in breast milk, and that's like what our study is working on. And you breastfeed infants, obviously, for the first at least 6 months of life. That's what the World Health Organization recommends because it has all the essential nutrients you would need for infant development. But there's fucking PFAS in there, so you're straight giving babies PFAS right out the rip. We're cooked. Anyway, that's like what my research is: environmental epidemiology. How is the environment? How is like pollution and PFAS and just all these environmental toxicants, we could say. And I do like I don't do any of the data collection or anything. I'm just like data analysis. Really what it looks like is I'm coding all day. Just coding, statistics. I don't know if that answers your question, Dage, but do I plan on using my degrees in the future? I mean, that's the goal, but I'm not using my degree. I don't have any like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this is just for the love of the game. And if I would not like a job at all. Really, I would like to be doing YouTube. And my own personal writing. I got some. I'm working on a book right now. That's one of the questions. So we'll put a pin in that. But I'm low key almost going to school to inform the book because I'm not. We'll put a pin in it. Put a pin in it. But yeah, I mean, do I plan on using my degrees in the future? Yes, just in the sense that I'll have some kind of basic, general, foundational knowledges. And at that point, like I'll have at 5. I'm really going for 6. I'm starting my. Big announcement, I'm starting a physics degree too, but that one's going to be really slow, like one class a term. I'm starting a new class this weekend. But yeah, anyway, I think I answered that question. Mishima is crazy, death, eroticism, mysticism, all the preoccupations visit. Oh, that's not death, eroticism, mysticism. Okay, I like that. I'll have to check him out. Sun and Steel is chill. It's his ideas about making physicality, getting yoked, and artistic expression. Yeah, I mean, the getting yoked thing, it is funny. Like, that's on some Cicero shit. That's on some Plato shit. Really, I guess you could say the Stoics, where, mind and body. You can't be some little scrawny loser. It's, the mind. Also, I am the scrawny loser, by the way. But mind and body are one and the same, are like two sides of the same coin. And I honestly, the more I think about that, it is true. Like I feel like everyone feels good. You intellectually, I feel like you're sharper when you engage in some kind of like physical exercise. But yeah, okay. So getting yoked. And do you hear that famous story of Plato where it's like he was debating someone? I don't know if he was losing or what, but bro just starts flexing. Bro just starts flexing on the opponent. I need to get yoked so I can bust that out. I'm kind of losing. I'm on the losing. I say, yeah, but did you see these though? I say, yeah, I like the right to bear arms. I'm American. Shout out to my AP English 11 teacher for giving us bangers like A Glass Castle and Native Son. See, yes, Cheek Psy, if I got that right. Glass Castle, Native Son. I haven't read Native Son, but I know it's James Baldwin. Or wait, is it Richard Wright, actually? I think that's Richard Wright, my bad. But anyway, books like that I think are much more like accessible. Like Glass Castle, great example. It's I feel like artistically written. It touches the deep themes like alcoholism, trauma. Like I remember the writing being good. Like tons of good shit to talk about. And it's not like fucking A Tale of Two Cities, which is like, let's find the most like GRE biggest vocabulary words we can think of, because he got paid by the word for that. And so bro's verbose, and then you give it to a high school, it's already difficult enough. You give it to high school, it just don't make sense to me. But like, yeah, Glass Castle, Native Son, that's killing me now. Hold on, I gotta see who wrote Native Son. Can someone let me know in chat, or not? I don't know. It's not that deep. The Sailor Who Fell from Grace from the Seal is goated. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. Oh, From the Sea. Okay, that makes more sense. But still have not heard of it. Oh, but we got some confirmation. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Life ain't all cookies and cream, little fella. Yep, welcome to the real world. Yeah, I know. Bro, this is what kills me. Lizzie, I see you in the comments too. Don't think I don't. The teachers getting paid peanuts. Like, have you guys seen, I mean, for anyone American or otherwise, in America, ICE agents who are just like the Gestapo rounding up fucking abuelitas and abuelitos, just like, people in the community, like the homies, right? They get what is it? It's like up to forgiveness of student debt. They get like a $50,000 sign-on bonus. What else was it? There was some other like mad perk, and it's like, this is crazy because that is that just proves that y'all could have been doing this the whole time. And that's the kind of incentive that should be not for like paramilitary US fascism, but like teachers, education. So it's crazy. Like, I got hella respect for any teacher because they're doing it for the love of the game. They truly are. They're certainly not doing it for the money. I feel like you got to be doing that out of the goodness of your heart. So, big Nay salute definitely to Lizzie for teaching. Curious what you teach too. Philip K. Dick fan. All right, my Call Me Call. Okay. I might have missed the context for that, but another book that I need to read, Valis on my list. Let's see. I read How to Change Your Mind, Michael Pollan, and the Hopkins study about mushroom makes me so hopeful. I have not read that book, but yeah, I mean, like, I was in a journal club for a little bit with a bunch of friends, and it ended up it was like a cognitive neuroscience journal, but it ended up just being like a psychedelics neuroscience journal. But yeah, I mean, the research about like the neuroplasticity and stuff like that with we'll just say hallucinogenics is honestly fascinating, understudied. I mean, there's definitely been an uptick in that kind of research, but yeah, undeniably, like the plasticity of it, of the brain, and with I feel like I've even had it in my own experiences, but we won't get too deep into that. But yeah, what's your take on language learning? Are you learning one as of now? Columbia in the house. Yeah. My take on language learning is that I'm horribly ashamed. I'm monolingual. I knew a little bit of Spanish. Like, I mean, I feel like I should know more. I took 2 years in high school. I took 2 years in college, but that was like a long time ago. But no, honestly, I would love to learn more languages. It's just I got so much on my plate that I would love to learn. It's just like it's not quite there. But my girl has been putting in hella work to learn Spanish, and it's just embarrassing. Like America low key be monolingual. Like in like the European countries and stuff like that. I feel like they got at least 2 on their belt. I mean, look, you're Colombian up in this, and you obviously got English. So it's like I honestly, more than anything, I find it embarrassing that I only know one language. What's up, Big Nate, Baby Finland? Don't think I don't see you in the chat either. It was Richard Wright and BTBW. It's Shek. Okay, Shek. I think I got it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, really looking forward to where psych. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, and now I'm officially caught up on chat, so let's get on to the next question. Gonna cheat and add another question. Oh, Theo, this is you. I recognize it. If you could live in the mind of any writer from history for a day, who would you pick? Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I have to think about that, because I would kind of want someone like a little tweakerish. Like Dostoevsky would be a good one. Like, bro ain't all the way there. Honestly, another one who comes to mind, I don't know if I'd actually want this, but like Hunter S. Thompson. I don't think he's like at that level of writing where I'd be like actually interested in it. But it's like, man, what's going on in that dude's head? And like the mind of Dostoevsky to produce a character like Raskolnikov, for instance, it's like you gotta be a little fucked up in there. Let's see. I don't know. Let's see. I think Dostoevsky's a good pick. But let me just look. If I had to pick someone to be, Borges would be interesting too. Borges would be interesting too, because he's like blind and just. If you read anything by Borges, you know, I'd just be so curious what's going on up there. Actually, that's my final answer. Jorge Luis Borges. If I had to pick an author to, I need to take a drink, to be in their mind, Theo, that's what I'm doing. Borges. Okay, Sims Undo. Are your parents big readers? Did they encourage you and your sis to read from a young age, or did you guys get into it as adults? I would say my parents don't read at all. Literally don't read. But in fact, I remember a time, like I mentioned this on one of the videos at some point, but like my dad at some point, we were talking about Malcolm X, and he's like, oh yeah, I'd be interested to read, because I was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, and he's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, whoa, this is the first time you've ever expressed any interest in a book at all. I'm like, if I give it to you, will you read it? He's like, yeah, let me get that. Bro didn't read it. Bro didn't even touch it, and now I had to get a new copy. I think they definitely encouraged it. Like, that's good shit. But yeah, no, they never read. Honestly, I'm trying to seeing these questions, and like I saw this one earlier. It does make me wonder where my impetus for reading really came from. Like, I feel like in the beginning days, like I remember being in daycare and reading shit like Goosebumps, and it's almost bad, but like, you know how like it's almost like external motivation for reading, because it was like, if you do this many, you get a prize. But the thing is, that had me, I'm like, I'm trying to get that prize. I've always been about the bread, you feel me? So I was like, so I started reading, but once you start kind of getting it, and then like the kind of young adult stuff, and then high school is like, I remember high school being introduced to Hemingway and being like, okay, whoa, that's kind of sick. But I low-key feel like it was, like throughout middle school and early high school, I would just read straight like young adult stuff. Like if I remember, like, you know, Artemis Fowl's one of them. Maximum Ride by James Patterson. Whoa, that was like blast from the past. You know, kind of like, you know, that kind of Dennis Lehane was around there too, like mysteries. I was big into mysteries. Earlier than that was like Hardy Boys, but around high school was when it was like we got into like you know, Hemingway, and I'm like I remember like reading Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, which was hilarious, by the way. But you know, and so I was like, okay, that's when I started to get into like the more like literary stuff. And then I almost feel like it really wasn't until high school that I started reading like novels on my own. But so I think that kind of answers the question. But anyway, parents not big readers at all, would love for them to be. But yeah, I think we just kind of got into it organically. And that's also why like this high school shit is so important, to expose people to like good books, because a good book will for real change your life. I'm sure everyone on here knows that. And high school is such a formative age, because that was when I was like, okay, there's levels to this shit. This is good stuff. And like, we have a program called like RC reading, where you have to like get X amount of, you're gonna choose a book. Each book is worth different points, and by the end of the semester you have to get so and so points. That kind of stuff I'm really honestly in favor of. Like, I don't like necessarily that it has to be like this deadline and there's like this external satisfaction, as opposed to just reading for the intrinsic good of it. But that is the kind of stuff that got me like into reading, if that makes sense. Also important why you got a good English teacher, you know. So let's see. Big Nate, are you a fan of the late Dr. Michael Sugru? I've never heard of Super Plorp. I've never heard of that person. What's their thing? What do they do? Never heard of it. HST is top tier writing in my opinion. What's HST? What did I say? What was it? Let me. I forget what HST, but I believe it. Borges as well. Yeah, that would be crazy. Being in Nietzsche's head could be kind of scary. Although that's a good one. Honestly, if it's just for a day, I would do Nietzsche. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, for that one, I want a writer who's like sufficiently tweaked out. Like I want there to be some element of tweakerness in there. So that's a good one. A good book will change your life. Diary of a Wimpy Kid is unironically the best thing to happen to middle schoolers. It gets so many kids reading. I mean, that's facts. I read Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and even shit like, I know it is almost like, it sounds like ironic or whatever, but unironically, wait, it was just in my head. What was it? Captain Underpants. Captain Underpants. Like, I remember tearing that shit up and like going to the Scholastic Book Fair. Like, that shit is real. You know, it does get you started at a young age. That's the kind of stuff too that show like writing isn't boring. I mean, I know we're talking about like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but like, you know, it's the gateway books. It's the gateway books. So yeah, big facts. Okay, let's see. All right, here's a good question from Chexy. Wait, is this the person in the chat? I can't. Yeah, it is. Sheck. I think you asked this one. How do you get past reading slumps? It's a good question. So, kind of tying back to the earlier one, I honestly don't really get reading slumps, because if I get slumped, that book's done. It's cut. You're gone. You're off the roster. Like, I try to avoid slumps by any means necessary. But an alternative, and I don't know if this is like, I guess it kind of depends on where you're at as a reader. But for me, like, if I was just reading Moby Dick right now, for instance, this would be like hella reading slump. So what I would recommend, I guess, if you're open to it, is like have another book. Because when I'm doing Moby Dick and I just can't stand that shit, I'll go to the other one. I'll go to The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. And that one's just like, I'll read it until I get my fill. And once me and Moby Dick have had enough time away from each other, it's like, all right, let's, once I'm a little recharged, we get back into it. So, I mean, I know, depending again where you're at, like with the reading, it's like oftentimes it's hard enough to just get for a person to read one book, let alone two. So, but if you are doing that and you're in a slump, either just drop the thing. Like, if you're in a slump, that means it's bad, I think. Unless, sometimes books have lull, in which case, at the end of the day, that's just discipline. Just keep reading a little bit every day, like even if it's like 20 minutes or something like that. A little bit, because eventually you'll get out of that. And if it just keeps sucking ass, then just drop the book. Or like maybe hit some essays or a short story. I feel like those are nice little, like the equivalent of like the little dopamine bump, where it's just like, okay, this is boring right now. Let me hit a fun short story, something that I can start and finish all in one kind of like sitting, just to get momentum back up. So that'd be my answer to that, Sheck, of how you get past reading slumps. And just catching up on chat. What is my least favorite genre? I don't know that I have a least favorite genre, honestly. I feel like it's all a matter of just good. Like I can think of like westerns comes to mind. Like, do I like westerns? Not necessarily per se, but like then you got books like Lonesome Dove, banger. It's like, am I big on romance? You know, not necessarily. Then you got books like Pride and Prejudice, banger. Like I always like horror. I've always liked sci-fi. I've always liked fantasy. So I don't know that I honestly do have a least favorite genre. I don't know. Feel free to spitball some ideas in chat of what I might not like, but I kind of fuck with everything. Okay, how about this? Least favorite genre? Taxes. Anything related to tax documentation and information? Least favorite genre. You ever borrow books from the library? How do you decide to buy? How do you decide to borrow or buy? I would love for myself to check books out of the library. I love the idea, like you just go browse the shelves, pick out a book, it's totally free, you go put it back. But I mean, you guys saw the collection. Like at this point for me, like I even did this. I got a library card and everything, and then I got I remember this distinctly, Thinking Fast and Slow by David Kahneman, like a book about psychology. And I wanted to highlight it, and it's so bad. And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. I'm gonna make a video about this soon too, talking about like my note-taking annotation process and stuff like that. But at this juncture of my life, just reading a book plain, no notes, no nothing, it's like I can't do that shit. It feels too naked. And then like, so anyway, yeah, and I like if I finish a book, I love having it like visually, like damn, look at all this, you know. So I love the idea of the library. I was gonna say if I was broke, but I was also buying books when I'm broke, so that doesn't even apply. But if you're really pressed and you don't really care about that stuff, especially to like, you know, if you're kind of like nomadic, like I have a lot of friends who like kind of move around a lot. Library, goated. So I wish I would implement it or like utilize it more, but just my reading lifestyle, I need the thing. I need it. How long does the oceanography part of Moby Dick last for? Endless, apparently. But no, you know, so Aldo, what it's been for me, first part, fire. Amazing. Like straight, it was the story, it was Ismail, it was Queequeg, it was great. Like I'm like, this is a blast. I see the hype. And since they've set sail, like literally, aside from like, there's a couple really great scenes, it's just ocean shit. It's just fucking ocean stuff. Like, like the last, what I was struggling with this morning, he's talking about like pole lancing or some shit. Like the method of pole, I don't even forget, I forget. But it's like, normally like they use this kind of wood and some use metal, and what you do is like you do this and like the like technique of like harpooning a whale. Don't give a fuck, bro. Like a little of this I can do in moderation, but it'll do that. And it's like, oh, and let's talk about another thing that happened this morning, like the whale's lungs. It's like a lot of people wonder when a whale out does the little spout stuff, is it water or is it air? Let's spend a whole little chapter. Let's spend some pages here. You know, on the one hand, it could, because, you know, whales don't have gills and blah, 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 blah. Like, oh my God, I so do not give a fuck. And it's just like, it's like that it's not like one part of it that's oceanography. It's just like, it'll go. Just when you think like, is this ever going to end? It'll give you one little drop of a scene where it's like, okay, that was sick. Like the story of Moby Dick is fire. The oceanography shit has got to go. So it's still going on, and it's not like one part. It's just kind of like, honestly, the whole thing since they've set sail is low-key oceanography with just spattered scenes here and there. It's like, I cannot for the life of me see why people like this book. I'm assuming like the end is gonna get good, because like everything, like the scene that happened with Ishmael and like the white whale, like Moby Dick, it was super mystical and interesting. And like I mentioned, Cormac McCarthy, I have a feeling once we get to Moby Dick, that's when the book's gonna be amazing, because there's nothing in this fucking book so far that makes me at all like makes this stand. This is just actively a bad book in my opinion, but I think it'll get good. I think that has to be what happens. I'm praying, bro. Make it worth it, because I know I'm like 400 pages into this shit. I would have been gone. Anyway, feel that. Yeah, I'm broken by him. Yeah, it's life, isn't it? It's life. want to see my library grow as I get older. Yeah, it's a great feeling, honestly. And books are just aesthetically almost like on some, not like decoration shit, but like, I remember when me and my girlfriend like set up our libraries in the living room. We had like 4 straight bookshelves taking up a whole wall. The room itself elevated. Like this, what would this study be without this bookshelf? You know what I mean? I mean, that's not the point, but it is a nice little perk. So, all right, let's do a few more questions here. Do you? Okay. Here we go. You seem to read many different religious and spiritual texts. What are your personal beliefs? How has reading a wide variety of ideas changed your perspective? So yeah, that's a good question. I do be reading religious and spiritual texts. I'm of the opinion I'm not like religious. Okay, hold on. I guess like the idea of like organized religion just does not, that I'm nothing like that. I'm not like Christian. I'm not like Buddhist. I'm not Catholic. I don't subscribe to any kind of like, this is the one God and that's why. Honestly, I think that's why I really encourage people to read like spirituality and mysticism, because you just see with your own eyes. They're all talking about the same thing. This is like the Joseph Campbell Power of Myth, Hero with a Thousand Faces stuff. It's I honestly, like, if ever, I'm not like in the business of like breaking down or like taking down like something like Christianity or like a literal belief in religion. But if I was, the number one thing I would point to is just the fact that you can like look at these texts which have originated, and this is what fascinates, like this is also answering the question. There's something just inherently fascinating about this to me, how all around the world, all these different cultures, all these different languages throughout, dating back thousands of years, you have these same fundamental stories that are being told, right? Like with everything in Christianity, there are analogies all throughout other religions. So to me, it's kind of not to like be demeaning, but it's almost like a little like silly to subscribe to like a literal interpretation. I'm deeply like spiritual, I would say. And this is what's so fascinating. I love Christianity in a way because like I love the stories, like some of the Bible verses. Like I think it has immense symbolic, metaphorical, spiritual value. But when people take it too literally, that's what Joseph Campbell says. Like you're mistaking the sign for the symbol. I forget, he has a great quote about what it is, but like you're missing the point essentially, right? You're not supposed to be taking these things literally, because if you do, it just totally breaks down into nonsense. You have to be looking at the underlying thing of which all of these religions and spirituality and spiritual texts and things like that, of which that is the source. So to me, that's why I'm into these different religions. And like, do I believe? I do ultimately believe in you could say, higher power. I mean, I made a video on this where it's like, as deep into like the sciences and stuff that I am. I think as to for the ultimate questions of the universe and existence and creation, science is futile. We eventually just come up against a metaphysical brick wall, you could say, that no thing in principle could answer. That's that transcendent principle. That is what's behind, that's essentially God, right? It's like that transcendent principle behind which all of creation is, all of existence, which fundamentally cannot be explained. Like, I do think there is a higher principle which will never be explained by science. And that's coming from a man of science myself. So I guess those are my, you could say, religious views. I think we kind of answered how has reading a wide variety of ideas changed your perspective. Like you get to see how all these different things connect. Like I find myself, like, I feel like you guys can see this on the channel. I'm talking about literature. I end up like referencing something about history. I'm talking about history. I end up referencing something I read in philosophy, which brings me back to something in psychology, which takes us back to literature. It's all related. It's all related. I'm a big proponent of reading widely. And again, that's kind of a relatively new thing, but the more I do it, the more I see its value. Lizzie, stop. I got dumped like 2 years ago for telling him the earth is over 6K years old. Stop, please. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you glue up then. Exactly. See, that's where it's just like, like, I'm all for like, what I think happens with this, Lizzie, and just everyone, is people they crave the spiritual elements of things. And for most people, that's like, for instance, the Bible and Christianity. And I feel like they think they need to really embrace like those spiritual principles and everything, and like the stories and the symbols and the parables and all the spiritual nourishment. They feel like they have to take everything as it is, literally. If their only experience with this is like stories of the Bible, then they're gonna like want to, because they're so connected and because they crave that spirituality so much, they're gonna like, you know, defend everything else even when it's kind of like indefensible. But yeah, no, I don't think that would have worked out. You know, if he thought the Earth was less than 6,000 years old, I don't think that was going to work out long term. So, if you only had 52 ovens, could you bake? Nah. I think that's a little Holocaust revision. I would not have known what that meant earlier, but nah. Chill with that. Do you ever want to write a book? If so, what genre and what would it be about? Yes, I would say I do want to write a book. Let's see. Okay. In my opinion, not believing in the Bible literally doesn't make it any less true because there's truth in symbolism. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it, Nicholas. Like, there are deep fundamental... I mean, this is something I talked about... It's something we talked about with... I forget where, but... The idea of, like, truths versus facts, you know? Like, there are deep spiritual truths in all religious texts. You know, there's something deeply, again, like, you know, true that can be found there. But like when it comes to the facts, right, truth versus facts, like if you interpret the Bible literally and you're like believe it is a fact that the earth was created 3,000 years ago, that's where there's like that disconnect. So yeah, I agree. That's why I also don't like, as much as I'm like very, you know, people shouldn't take religion too literally, I'm also not a big fan when people just like shit on religion unnecessarily, because there is value to be gained from it. You know, it's just separating the two, which I think people have trouble doing. Has reading changed the way you view politics? Spencer, good question. It has, because I've been historically in my life, I've been very, not like anti-politics. Frankly, I just didn't really like care. And I was kind of the opinion, Schopenhauer has this quote where it's like, politics is the second hand of history, like on a clock. You know, like little, it just seems like it's just like, you know, and he compares it to like, you know, newspaper blowing in the wind. One event just displaces another and another and another. And I honestly, frankly, I just didn't care. But honestly, what really has got me into politics recently is just like, one, what's been happening just here in the US, like it's getting to a point where you just can't ignore this shit anymore. It's straight in your face. But also just, yeah, reading, right? Like I mean, Plato's The Republic, that is a fundamentally political book. And then you read things about like people like Pythagoras, for instance, who was like, you know, famous mathematician, Pythagorean's theorem. But he was also like, you know, a lot of these like ancient thinkers, but just sticking with someone like Pythagoras, was also, along with just being like a master mathematician, was also deeply involved in politics. And then what also just like even stuff like, you know, just capitalism has been really getting on my nerves lately. It's just been I feel like the working class in America has really just reached like a breaking point. And that's where I start to read like a little bit of Marx, a little bit of like, you know, philosophy like that. And that's all politics. And just, you know, honestly, the more I think about it, there is really kind of like I've been feeling a little more like responsibility to kind of just keep up with world events. And honestly, with the like once you dive into it a little bit, it's like, oh my, you begin to like wake up a little bit. And it's like there's a lot of fucked up stuff going with politics. And as much as I like, as toxic as that whole community is, I do like to, if anything, I've been getting more kind of into history, which, if that makes sense, you know, like the general trends. And that has really informed my view of like current politics, like reading The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Like that's a book of history, but you just see the straight parallels, what's happening in today politics. And like, again, with like The Republic, fundamentally political book. And it's like, I love that book too, because it just poses the question, like, if we had to start a society from scratch, what would it look like? And then it has me wonder, like, you know, what is the point of government, right? Like, what is its purpose? And like, this is just the kind of stuff, right, when I'm reading, this is the kind of inspiration I get just to answer your question. It's like the purpose of government, I would expect, is to serve the people. And then you just see how absolutely far, like, the disconnect of what's happening. And again, the more I kind of read into it, the more I'm becoming increasingly interested in history and politics. But yeah, it is a horribly toxic thing, though. Like, anyway, like any kind of political media is just like exhausting, to be honest. But anyway, kind of answers your question, I guess. It's cool that, like you were saying, a lot of writing throughout history builds upon certain archetypes and myths, even if it doesn't speak to a higher power, that it does speak to something about a collective, creative conscious. And that is where someone like Carl Jung comes in. Because yes, exactly. That's his idea of the collective unconscious. There is like this general, I mean, if you view humanity, and this, here we go, look, we're talking about philosophy and psychology now, because Plato draws this analogy between like the microcosm and the macrocosm, where it's like all of humanity in some way can be thought of as like as a collective psyche. Just as we each have our own individual psyches, humanity is a collective psyche. And to your point, Theo, about how we are seeing these motifs pop up everywhere. That's what we mean. That's what someone like Carl Jung means by like the collective unconscious, because these are symbols that are spontaneously producing themselves, even though, you know, there's no like interaction between these cultures, and that's the collective unconscious. So I'm hoping our spirits carry on after we're gone. I think a little bit of us also hope that. Oh, also, sorry, for politics, Cicero also got me into politics. Sorry, I just had to say that because he was an actual like, you know, Roman statesman, and reading some of his writing has got me interested in that too. Sorry, I just had to say that. And you know, at the end of the day, Aldo and just everybody, we don't know. You know, we can talk. To me, the fundamental mystery of existence leaves open the possibility for anything. It really does. It really does. Clara in the Sun would be a good read if you want to think about our spirit. I'm not gonna lie, Lizzie, I thought Clara in the Sun was kind of mid, but I love the themes and everything in there, but I felt like the book was just a little, it needed to go deeper in my opinion. But yeah, I agree, definitely. 20 on the stream and 8 likes. Go ahead. I said, yeah, that's a shame. Everyone go hit that like. Okay, do you ever want to write a book? If so, what genre and what would it be about? So honestly, okay, so like I mentioned earlier, how I low-key did the English degree so that, hold on, water break. I low-key did the English degree to keep me accountable for creative writing. So I would have said, okay, the answer is yes, I want to write a book. But also I would have said like fiction, just creative writing, fiction kind of stuff. But recently, honestly, I'm actively writing a book. I've got like, I don't know, but it's got to be like 30,000, 50,000, 40,000, 50,000 words. And so it's, you know, I'm deep in there. But the book idea is essentially what we were just talking about. All like with the mythology and the themes that pop up around the world. But the key thing, because that's been done, that's Jung, that's even a little bit of Freud, that's Joseph Campbell. They've done that, and this is why it's so important, again, to read widely and stuff like that, is because what I've noticed in the sciences is that the same mythological themes that we see in like mythology and religion and stuff, those manifest also in science. And it's difficult to explain this, in my opinion, without getting like too deep in the weeds. But let me just give an example of someone like Carl Sagan. Well, so one of the big mythological themes is the idea of the cosmic egg. In the beginning, there was nothing, and all of the universe was contained in an egg. And what happens is there's some variation of like, there's some kind of religious figure or something that happens, and, you know, eventually the egg hatches, right? The egg hatches, and it basically gives forth to the infinite profusion of forms and light. It's creation, right? It's the beginning of creation. And Carl Sagan, he talks about how this is very similar to essentially just the model of the Big Bang. In the beginning, there's this egg, right? That's that point, that infinitely dense and small point that exists that they talk about in the Big Bang. And eventually, who knows why, the egg hatched, right? And that's the Big Bang. We don't know what caused it, but eventually this point basically, for lack of a better word, explodes into the universe. Like that is a that's like an analogous thing, right? That's just one example of what I'm talking about. And I've so that's what this whole book is going to be about. And honestly, we'll save that, because honestly, I could go into a whole thing, but like in many ways, that's also why I'm going back to school for math and science, is low key to learn about more phenomena about this book. And so I've been reading like mythology, I've been reading science, I've been reading math, and honestly, the parallels are just so stupidly in your face. It's genuinely fascinating. Like there's so many, like Prometheus. Just for fun. Prometheus, and this is me going off the tip. So hold on, like I'm not prepared for this, but like Prometheus, you know, the creator of mankind, the god of fire, and it's just like Prometheus is, like I mentioned in the video, like the symbol of like, you know, human consciousness and human intelligence, rationality, and it's like this fire that like illuminates, you know, the essentially like the mind of human beings. But there's just a ton of different parallels like with like the Promethean myth. So like for instance, like, okay, I'm trying not to like overshare here. I don't want to go like down this whole here. I'm sorry. I know I just set and baited that whole thing, but I kind of want to like make a thing about this and do it justice. But that was a horrible, sorry guys, that was a horrible explanation. But yes, I'm writing a book. I don't want to fumble it. I want to give the idea its due diligence. So sorry, I know I just set that up, but we're putting a pin in it. Sorry. I like the theme of like, if you were cloned, you wouldn't be you, but why not? Hence the idea of our spirits. Yep. Derek Parfit is a philosopher who's done a lot of interesting stuff with like that. Gonna have to dip 2-8. Oh, shout out Theo. Salutes to Theo. Okay, and then we can wrap. It is getting a little bit late. Let's see how much more. I feel like, dang, I didn't get to everyone's questions. Okay. Oh, this is actually a question by Theo, but he can check it out later. Do you read much poetry? And if so, do you have a favorite poem? I'll be brief with this. Honestly, no, I don't. The only two poets I've liked to date, really, that I've read that come to mind, Emily Dickinson and Sylvia Plath. Those are like the only two poets that, to me, have actually written poetry where it is like genuinely like good, where it's like, whoa, like, you know, this is something I would like to read. A lot of it I just kind of have to endure. And it's just like the term I said in the Discord is just pretentious nonsense, and I think that's honestly a pretty good description of not even just like especially contemporary poetry, but just honestly most poetry in general that I seem to read, just like, let's throw in a bunch of big words, line break, and then line break, you know, something that sounds really deep, but it's really not, right? That's how poetry seems to me. So I don't have a favorite, you know, poem or anything, but like I said, Emily Dickinson, I do have her somewhere here. Selected poems. Only poet I've read where I'm like, this is genuinely good. This is genuinely good. Okay, someone already asked about what do I do for work, and so yeah, okay. This is kind of like a repeat question. Who's your favorite psychologist to learn about? Do you have a favorite experiment? As a former psychology major myself, I know a lot of them are super weird and unethical. Also, favorite book centered around psychology. Ooh, that's a tough one. Favorite psychologist? I don't know that I mean, I don't know if this. I would say this counts, but someone like I already mentioned him. Oliver Sacks. The part of psychology I was super interested in is where you find out where the brain interacts with the mind, and you have people who suffer like really bad forms of brain damage, and then there are corresponding changes to cognition. Like patient HM is a fascinating case where it's like they removed his hippocampus. This is back when we really didn't know a whole lot about the brain. Removed a region of the brain called the hippocampus because he had like really bad seizures, and he lost his long-term memory. So he could kind of like talk, or wait, did I mix that up right? Or no, I mixed that up. Sorry, he kept his long-term memory. He loses his like, you know, everyday short-term memory. You can like talk to him, have a whole conversation, leave the room, come back, and he'll have completely forgot you exist. But some of the longer-term memories were actually pretty good intact, and it's almost like the further back you went, the more preserved they were. And so like that was like just a fascinating case study for me, and it also like big in psychology because it's like, okay, there are certain regions of the brain that correspond to like very specific cognitive functions. And The Man Who Mistook His Fat Hat is another fascinating. That whole book is just tons of examples of that nature. A Tale of Dueling Neuroscientists by Sam Keane is also like a really good one where they go into like this history. Another big, I forget what their patient's name. There's all like these acronyms, but a really, what is bro's name? I forget, but basically, this is killing me. Wow, I'm losing my my sharpness. But it's like this guy who basically had like this pole driven straight through his brain, and he somehow lived. But like his personality totally changed. Like he used to be like you know, thrifty with money. He used to be sociable. He was a good guy. He was nice. But like now he was just a total asshole to everybody. He was horrible with money. Like at some point, it's like a doctor was like, "I'll give you this stone." Or like, you know, $50,000, and he's like, I'll take the stone. You know, just like total change of like did a complete 180, just totally irritable piece of shit. And you know, those kinds of things I just found that was my favorite part about like psychology, or like one of my favorite topics in psychology, I guess you could say. Phineas Gage, thank you, Terrence. Oh my goodness, how did I forget? Shameful. Yeah, Phineas Gage, thank you. Oh look, you both got it. Those are kind of like basic too. Like these are like the big ones, but like A Tale of Dueling Neuroscientists, like I just mentioned, and The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. Both of those have some like super, just example upon example. I also like, is it Wilder? I think it's Wilder Penfield. But that honestly is such a slept on set of experiments to me, because basically what he would do, I'm pretty sure it's Wilder Penfield. I might be mistaking the name, but like he basically, when he was a neurosurgeon, and before he would do neurosurgery, because of people like HM and Phineas Gage, like he would basically electrically stimulate part of the brain just to make sure, just to see what would happen, because he didn't want to get rid of something that was like crucial for normal cognitive functioning. And I don't know if you consider those like, I guess, like psychology experiments, but I kind of do. And before he would do surgery, he would like simulate these, and he found all these crazy sets of like people would hear, like have vivid reliving of memories from like 20 years ago, like crazy, stupidly vivid, or they would hear things, they would have like these extra, like these perceptions. Like there was one woman, for instance, I always remember this, where it's like he stimulated, and she's like, are you playing a gramophone right now? Like I hear music. And it was like literally, he described it as like almost like a needle on a vinyl record or whatever, like the harder he pushed, the louder the music came. And she was like, humming this whole fully fleshed out, because they're like, okay, can you sing it for us? And she's singing out like this whole fleshed out song, and in the meantime it's just dead silent, and everyone's just like, what the fuck? So, and you could like, stimulate a region of the brain, and like someone's leg would kick out, and they'd or just like they'd feel like there's like ghosts and angels. It's just like, to me, that is such a fascinating principle, that just like all of this is the brain. Just by like poking around, sticking around, like electrical stimulation, you're able to just totally warp. And the way I like to think about it, like you play the keys of piano, and like it gives rise to chords. The brain is essentially kind of like that piano of the mind. Like you can just strike chords of the mind, like in all these different, in emotion, like people would weep, like you would just stimulate the brain, and they just start like weeping, have these horrible feelings of sadness or immense great like ecstatic joy. So anyway, stuff like that is what, the cognitive aspect of psychology, to answer your question, is what really stood out to me. What's in the rise and fall that you're currently reading must have a ton of parallels with our White House? I mean, honestly, the big one that's been sticking out to me is ICE, and how basically Hitler kind of like commandeered like I forget exactly what it is, but like the army, or like some version of the army. He essentially made like a paramilitary group to like do his bidding, and Hitler was gaining more and more political prominence. And it was like it wasn't like an official government run necessarily, kind of. I mean, it both was and wasn't, which is also kind of like ICE coded. But basically, yeah, the paramilitary organization to basically like spread fear and terror into people. And I'm sure oftentimes, I don't remember the specific details, but surely to like, persecute the Jews and stuff like that, which like the analogy there with like ICE and immigrants is just stupid. And then like not to mention like starting to send the National Guard in. That's National Guard. I mean, it's not like paramilitary because it's like technically part of the government, but like in a totally unprecedented, uncalled for way, where he's sending it like, okay, someone just got assassinated in Utah. Charlie Kirk just got assassinated in Utah. What should we do? Let's send it to a bunch of, which was like a red state. Let's send the National Guard into a bunch of blue state. Like it's just blatantly obvious what's happening. And like also another thing that really stood out to me is Hitler just totally put into power all his little cronies, all his little friends, his bootlicker friends, and they're just like totally incompetent, stupid, bumbling idiots, but they're loyal. And it's like that's exact, like Trump has just filled the government with people like that. So it's stuff like that. Hitler was also kind of like a bummy loser. Like he dropped out of art school. Like bro had no motion. He was literally like a vagabond. I don't know. The fact that they're both just kind of losers, I don't know. That stood out to me too. But definitely like the ICE, National Guard, paramilitary, filling the government with your cronies. That's just off the top of their head. I would love to go into my notes and look deeper into that. Thank you, Lizzie. I try. I like teaching, don't like grading. But okay, we're almost done with this list. Although honestly, I didn't even get to the Instagram ones. Okay, we're gonna speed run some of these last questions. Dilcor, the OG GOAT. Have you ever felt pressure to try to appeal more to the YouTube algorithm? Your content deviates from the norm of what is popular. Have you always been the kind of guy to say, fuck what everyone else is doing, I'm sticking to my own stuff? How have you resisted that sort of gamification trap, the hopping on trends and whatnot that so many creators fall into? I don't know. I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, the people who are like, you know, they're like totally buying like the trends or gamify it, like the YouTube thumbnail kind of stuff. That I've always found that corny, and I pray you guys tell me if I ever devolve into that. Like I can do a little bit of corniness, but like to me, the rule of thumb, like I could even be down to like, you know, make more like, you know, popular-ish kind of videos, but to me the North Star has got to be about books. It's got to be about literature and real literary analysis, because I feel like what happens with a lot of these people where they just, you know, like where they gamify it and like, you know, like the TikTokification, the I don't know exactly what the word of it, but you guys get what I'm saying. For me, the problem with that is like you lose sight of the you're not talking about, it's not booktube anymore. Like you're using books as like hyper commodity. Like you're just like if you're consuming and you're not really about that life and you really reading, but like, you know, 10 15 plus books a month and they're just all like shitty books, it's like, what are we doing? But like because that taps into like the algorithm because they're popular, or like, you know, they're like big on TikTok or whatever. I don't know, I sound like a boomer right now, but I don't know. Like to me at the end of the day, like in terms of like whether I'm following trends or whatnot, the one thing I need, and I need you guys to call me out, because I'm afraid it happened, because you see it to the most unlikely candidate. The people who kept it so solid, they fall off. They'll buy into it. Like they'll eat the cake. I don't think that's a saying, but if I ever do, you guys gotta let me know. Like I'm down to do a little bit of more like popular appeal stuff, but it's gotta be literature. It's gotta be literature. At the end of the day, yeah, clickbaity YouTube is so annoying. Oh, John Larry, I'm pretty sure I answered your question earlier. I don't know if you were here, but I recognize that profile. So you guys gotta you guys gotta hold me accountable. But yeah, that's the North Star. That's the North Star. That's the answer. Okay, we got a few more here. My sister says that I'm ugly, so that's from Instagram. Thank you, Madison. B. Collis wins the next Big Nate's sister collab happening. I'm hoping soon. It was supposed to happen this week because I had my sister and my cousin were here. We were going to do a book haul. I literally bought them books. I bought them books on the impression. I'm like, okay, I'll get you books if we can do a book haul. Oh yeah, I'm down. But one thing led to another, and it just didn't happen. So hopefully, but Madison's got a marathon coming up, so because hopefully we'll have a Big Nate and Nate's sister collaboration very, very soon. You're pretty much the opposite of corny Big Nate. Okay, good. I try. And like I said, you guys gotta let me know. Yes, I heard the answer to your question. Thanks, you Rod. And I butchered it too because I was like, oh, let me tell you about it. I just don't. I'm gonna fumble it right now. I can feel I'm gonna fumble it. So, but I would like to make a whole video about that kind of stuff at some point. When did you start smoking za? Damn, that's a good question. High school, senior year of high school. I remember it. First time I smoked was going to a Denzel Curry concert, and I was like, that was crazy. And it's kind of been on and off since then, mostly on. Yeah, I could make a video at some point describing my relationship with weed. I think that'd be interesting. But yeah, around high school, senior year of high school, I would say. Okay, what's your favorite non-academic college memory? Well, related to this, this one I did think I saw that and one instantly came to mind. There was a class I took, existentialism. There was a friend I had, Eric, and we both had a night class. It was like 7 to 9 or something like that. And so we would just carpool together. We would hotbox his car and then go to our respective classes. And honestly, that was such a that's got to be one of my. So it kind of counts as a college memory, I guess. It's non-academic. Or it kind of counts as an academic memory, that is. But no, honestly, it was the vibe. Just like it's the night class vibe too. You get a little drink, you get a little soda or like snack, something like that. And then just like, you know, we'd smoke, we'd chief, we'd go, we'd meet back up after and go do our thing. It was a great time. So that's got to be one of my favorite non-academic college memories. Okay, and last but not least, this is the final question we got here. How did you start doing maths? Honestly, it's because of, well, okay, the brief answer is, for me, I've had so many interests in life where when I try and deeply understand it, try and figure out what's going on behind the hood, especially with like the neuroscience and stuff, like I was really very interested in like things like computational neuroscience. And I did this whole boot camp and there's like all these different things. But the one thing I'm always running up is the math. Same thing with like physics, like quantum physics. Like I know enough to know that kind of, there's some deeply interesting philosophical things going on with like quantum physics and the incompleteness theorem and like, you know, all these different things, but I don't know it. You know what I mean? Plus the fact that like this book that I've been writing. I don't know why it does. Do you guys see this thumbs up thing? I don't know why that keeps happening. I forgot to figure out how to get that, because the chat doesn't show up on the little YouTube video. Whatever, it don't matter. What was I saying? Anyway, yeah, like I just got sick of not knowing math, and it's just like I'm on my lifelong student grind. Just go straight to the source. I started from the bottom. Now we here. I started from pre-calculus, which is like that's some high school shit. But now I'm in Calc 3 and linear algebra. So I don't know if I guess that kind of answered your question, which was from It's Naomi Bitch 24. How did you get started doing math? It's been a growing interest, and then at some point it's just like, let's send it, let's do it. And so far, so good. All right, and with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. You guys have been a wonderful chat audience. Great questions from everybody. Great feedback. Thanks for sticking out for so long. And next, if you want to do a little literary analysis, get to the Discord. Otherwise, don't. You can just pop into live whenever. We're going to be walking through the stories like from the beginning. You don't need any prior reading experience, anything like that. We getting straight into it. But if you're interested, get to the Discord. We'll have a file like the PDF of the story, and just general discussion and yada yada yada. Anyway, big salute to the Big Nate gang. Appreciate you all. And until the next live stream, thank you guys so much for watching the Big Nate live stream, home of the best live stream. At ease. Wait. Shit, hold up. Your stream